Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a little bit of a different video, a little bit rambly. David Murphy makes these videos called weekend endnotes sometimes, and I guess this is my own weekend endnotes. I'm going to be talking about a lot of disparate things, and some of them are a little bit contentious, so please be generous with me in the comments. It's totally fine to disagree with somebody. Just when you do, try to not be an asshole about it. I actually love it when people engage with what I'm saying, and I love it when they disagree, but sometimes people can be a little rude. Anyway, before I get into all the things that I wanted to talk about in this video, I want to continue the book giveaway. I've been able to give away all of the books that I've offered up so far, which is great. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm offering up Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. Now, usually there are two rules when it comes to the book giveaway. The first is that you have to live in the continental United States, unfortunately. The second is that you have to email me. I've explained before that it's not a competition. It's first come, first serve. Whoever wants the book first and emails me will get it. In this case, though, there is something different, because not only do you have to live in the lower 48, not only do you have to email me, but you have to also email me with the solemn oath that if I send this to you, you will read the other book that is included in the package. And that other book will be Muriel Sparks's Far Cry from Kensington. Okay? You have to read both of these. I'm not just going to send you this. I'm going to send you this along with this, and I want you to read this as well, because I cannot suffer the consequences of sending somebody this and then having them start their booktube channel and start talking about a literary renaissance or something like that. That would be a disaster. I have to balance this book out with something else, and I'm going to balance it out with Muriel Spark. So if you want this book, you're welcome to it. You have to live in the lower 48. You have to email me, and when you email me, you have to email me with the promise that you're going to read A Far Cry from Kensington along with Blood Meridian. Okay, so that's the rules for this giveaway. But I have a stack of the books that I'm giving away here, and one of the other books that I was giving away was Donna Tartt's Secret History, and I kind of wanted to talk about this in this video, not about the book itself, but about the physical packaging of books. It was one of the points I wanted to make in this video, because I'm giving this away. This is the copy that I've had for years. When I read The Secret History, I read it from this copy a couple of years ago. But I recently came across, and this was in that book haul that was so big I didn't post all of the books that I got in it. One of those books was this copy of The Secret History. And as you can tell, it looks different. I'm going to hold them up together. You can see that the aspect ratio, just the size of this, is completely different. It's taller, it's a little bit thicker, but it's taller by a substantial head. And the effect of that is that the book feels so much different just to look at and to read from. In addition to that, there is, of course, no sticker that you can't remove on it, which everyone hates. And it also doesn't say National Bestseller on it. It just says the name of the novel, and then it says that it's an A novel there at the bottom. It has these cool red, I don't know, accents on it, which this one preserves in some sense. But I just love the physical package of this book. I think it's great. And it just confuses me when I go to used book sales and I come across books like this, how often the books that I come across in these used book sales are just demonstrably and obviously better than their modern reprints. I mean, we could go through and just list all of the ways that this reprint is worse. It's got that sticker that every person hates. Nobody likes these stickers. There's so many things about this. Obviously, they put a quote from the New York Times on here, which is okay. Sometimes having a quote on the cover is fine. I would prefer it, though, if when you put a quote on the cover, instead of saying the New York Times, you gave the reviewer's name, and then I could know who you were talking about. I like it when you see a novel and it's got a recognizable name on the cover, Lev Grossman, whatever, he's on a bunch of them, or Susan Sontag, for example. And then international bestseller is obviously unnecessary too, but that's going to be on there regardless. And the biggest thing is the size of it. I mean, this is now the size of any other paperback, and I don't understand why you would do that, considering the fact that you've got a book here that it did something unique, did something cool with the way that it was sized. My point isn't so much that books are getting worse. I mean, when I go to Barnes & Noble, there's a lot of very unique printings of books, and people like getting sprayed edges on books, and when people go crazy with books, they go crazy usually with the hardcover. I mean the physical editions. But what's the point of physical editions? I just had a conversation with Steve Donahue over on Steve Donahue's channel about e-readers, and the funny thing about e-readers is that they're basically better than the physical book in every single way. The only reason that physical books still have a pull on people like me, and I think people like Steve as well, is because there is a sort of magic sometimes to the physical book. I understand that and I appreciate that, but the magic is almost all but completely gone when the book looks like this, and it could look like this. That's the point. I guess that's what I'm getting at. If we're going to continue to buy physical books, even though we have e-readers that, you know, can have thousands of books on them, and you can just throw them in your bag whenever you want and go anywhere in the world with them whenever you want and have a whole library with you. If that is what you're up against, then the physical books themselves have got to have cool things about them that you'd never get from an e-reader. And things like this are very cool. And yet, what happens if you want to get a copy of Donna Tartt's Secret History today is that you'll get this, and there's nothing special about this. I just always think it's confusing when I go to used bookstores and I see editions of books from their original print, and they're amazing to look at. Their covers are so well designed. The printing of the book is extremely impressive. Somebody was saying even with the new Brandon Sanderson book, I watched a great video on it where somebody was pointing out that the edition of his new fantasy book, they were saying that a huge chunk of that book was missing pages and that it was printed terribly and things like that. This is confusing to me, not because I think that these are modern day problems. I'm sure that there have been issues with printing books since time immemorial, but I am confused why there is not that much of a push within publishing to make sure that physical books are more like this and less like this, because this is cooler and this is competing with e-readers, and this, in my opinion, doesn't even come close to what an e-reader can offer you. This does something special and unique enough to where I might consider reading this as a physical copy instead of as an ebook, but this doesn't even try to give me that incentive. I don't know if that's just me. I just wanted to throw that out there, not because I think that books are necessarily getting worse. I don't have a bird's eye view of publishing. I don't know if physical books are actually, you know, getting cheaper, or I don't know anything like that. I know that we're not printing mass market paperbacks anymore. I know there's a bunch of things that have changed in terms of the physical copy of books. I'm just confused why books like this are relegated to used book library sales, and books like this are the ones that we're getting on shelves, when books like this are the ones that are actively competing with e-readers, and e-readers are offering something that this never could, but then this could offer something that e-readers never could, and it would look something like this. An interesting size, an interesting design, and an aesthetic experience that you just can't get on an e-reader. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Besides talking about physical copies of books, another thing that's been on my mind is just a brief general PSA, which is that please stop using the word impactful. This came to a head yesterday. I've been hearing the word impactful for years and years and years, and I was watching a video yesterday, and it was a very good video. It was a video that I thought the presenter was doing a great job in, and I was happy to watch it, but then they used the word impactful, and it was sort of like a shell shock. You know, it usually is. It's like, oh God, they used the word impactful, but it's okay. I don't mind. I can live with one. And then they used it again, and it was like, okay, this is critical. This is a critical situation that I found myself in. And then they used it a third time, and I had to shut the video off. It was too much. I was overwhelmed. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. And so I'm worried that this word, this blasted word, isn't going to die. And I want to kill it. I want to be the reason that people stop using the word impactful. And I'm going to use an argument that is not prescriptive. I understand that there is a kind of prescriptivist argument that you can make against the word impactful. You can make an argument against it based on grammar or whatever. I don't even want to do that. I don't want to take the prescriptivist approach. I'll take the descriptivist approach. I think that aesthetically, it sucks. I think that aesthetically, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I think aesthetically, it's like walking around wearing a wolf graphic tee. I think you look dumb when you wear that, and I think you sound dumb when you say it. I don't mean that you're actually being dumb. I don't mean that you're actually not making a good point when you're saying it. But we have so many better and more accurate and just easier on the ears words to use. Instead of saying things like Michelangelo was an impactful artist, we could use words like significant, influential, substantial, important. There are so many words in the English language that we have available to us. We are not scarce on words that approximate what people are going for when they use the word impactful. I think that's what's so annoying about it, and what is so stupid about the word's use in so many different contexts, because I hear it all the time, and I know I hear it all the time because every time I do, a shudder is sent down my spine. The thing about the word impactful is that we are not at a loss for good alternatives. In fact, all of those alternatives are better because you can use multiple of them if you want to, or you can narrow it down and just use a word like important or substantial or significant or whatever comes to your mind. But you don't have to reach for impactful. And so just as a brief PSA, I don't mean to say that the word impactful is grammatically incorrect. I don't care if it's grammatically incorrect or not. I do think, objectively speaking, it's an ugly word. And I think that it detracts from whatever point you're trying to make. Whether you're saying it in a YouTube video, or especially if you're using it in print, there are so many better alternatives. Am I the only one who can hear it? It sounds horrible. It sounds terrible. It ruins your point. And you don't want your point ruined by a stupid word, so just use something else. Okay, how many contentious and dumb points can I make in one video? Okay, so not to get progressively more contentious, but my third point is about miracles. And religion and faith, you know, easy things to bring up. Of course, this deserves a video of its own, but I wanted to kind of respond to some of the criticisms that I got in the comments of my last video about my opinions on miracles and what I said about miracles. I was talking about Carlos Ayer's book, They Flew, which is a book that I read at the beginning of this year. I mentioned it in my last video as a book that I thought was really annoying and that I was really disappointed with. In They Flew, Carlos Ayer talks about miracles, and he talks about the various miracles that are attributed to saints like Saint Joseph of Cupertino or Saint Teresa of Avila. In both of those cases, those Catholic saints were known to fly, and he examines some of the testimonies about those saints and their flying abilities, or the stories that were told about their flying abilities. And I said, can you fly? I certainly can't fly. Nobody can fly. I said something along the lines of that. And I think people took me as being very dismissive of the idea of miracles just in general, that I had a bias against the existence of miracles, period. I just wanted to say about the existence or non-existence of miracles that they should be treated, in my opinion, as any other claim. They require a certain amount of evidence, and there is a burden of proof that is required of something like miracles, as there is in any other claim of any other variety. What annoyed me about They Flew was that Ayer was suggesting that there was good evidence for the possibility of the impossible, based on legends from testimonies relating to the inexplicable flights of people like Saint Teresa of Avila and Joseph of Cupertino. Now, I understand that there are testimonies of people doing the impossible. I also, and I would like to stress this way more than Carlos Ayer does, those are not specifically Catholic phenomena. There are stories of people doing the impossible across cultures, across time, across religions, all over the world. The world is not without its impossible claims, okay? That's not at all what I would be arguing against. I'm saying that there has to be more than just those claims to make them true. And all I was saying was, and I'll keep this very brief because I don't want to get too contentious with everything, but it is not the skeptic's job to explain away those testimonies, to explain away why we would have accounts of St. Teresa of Avila flying. We don't need to explain away why those exist. I don't know why they exist. I don't think anybody knows why certain things exist. I don't really understand what the expectation would be if we were to try and explain away why those accounts exist. Are we expected to read people's minds? I don't really understand why we would even be required to explain away why those accounts exist. They exist. Nobody is arguing against their existence. And again, they exist in many different forms across many different cultures, across all of time and all religions and all peoples. So I understand that those accounts exist. Any person with their head screwed on straight knows that those accounts exist. There is no way for somebody who's skeptical in any way of those accounts to go in and explain away why those accounts exist. It's the believer's job to prove the existence of miracles if that is what they're trying to do. Carlos Ayer in They Flew is sort of painting a negative image with testimonies about people doing the impossible. He's not saying that they actually did the impossible, but he's saying everything but that. He's, again, painting a negative image that you're supposed to immediately fill in with your own sort of impression that these things might actually be possible. And sorry, but that's not enough. If you believe in the existence of these miracles, then the burden of proof is on your shoulders, not on the skeptic's shoulders, to figure out how to explain away the existence of certain testimonies and legends from, centuries ago as to one or two people who reportedly flew at some point in their lives. That isn't evidence that somebody broke the laws of physics and did something that is patently impossible. It just isn't. A few people saying that they saw something like that happen, again, centuries ago, is not evidence that such a thing actually happened. Some people were saying that I was biased and that I was automatically disregarding a book like that and claims like that. I'm actually not doing that at all. I'm saying that this book is annoying because I'm reading the work of a historian whose works I've really enjoyed in the past, breaking his own rules and the expectations of his own field in the case of miracles, because that just seems to be the modus operandi of people who are taking the accounts of miracles seriously. I don't know why. I don't know why the burden of proof shifts so much when we're talking about, I don't know, the history of the Soviet Union, or in Carlos Ayer's case, the Reformation, and then it shifts dramatically when all of a sudden we're talking about miracles. I want to insist that it's okay to have faith that miracles took place. It's okay to believe that miracles took place. If you believe that, that's private and particular to you. But to say that there is proof of such things because there's a couple of people throughout recorded history who have written down at some point that somebody did something impossible is nonsense. People have been praying for a very, 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 very long time. If there was some way to demonstrably be able to pray a certain amount and then be able to fly as a result of that, we would have figured out that process by now. I understand how a lot of these arguments go, and I understand that these arguments, happened in the comment section of my video. I'm actually okay with that because it's inevitable at this point. I'm just confused why Ayer himself, Carlos Ayer, again, a respected historian, was moving the goalposts so much in his own field and in his own work to make it seem as if this is actually a history of the impossible. I think that's my real criticism of the book, is that it is not at all a history of the impossible. First of all, it focuses exclusively, almost exclusively, on Catholicism. Then it focuses on a few saints and a few miracles within Catholicism. It is not a broad survey of impossible claims by any stretch of the imagination. And then furthermore, instead of just presenting all of the relevant material about impossible claims. Carlos Ayer sees fit to make the argument that such things, based on the evidence that he presents in the book, are plausible. And they aren't. Clearly they aren't. Look, there's a lot of things to say about the subject of miracles, obviously religion and faith, and I have been dealing with and reading in that subject since the beginning of my reading. I said in the last video that I made that a book like Father and Son was one of my favorite reads of this year, precisely because it deals with what I'm talking about, these conversations revolving around reason and faith and whatnot, and this is a prime example of where the two start to meet head to head. The only reason I brought it up was because I didn't like the book. I didn't like what Ayer was doing, and I didn't like it for, I think, very legitimate reasons. This is not proof. This is not something that you can take seriously as evidence that people can do the impossible. If you are saying that Saint Teresa of Avila actually literally flew off the ground, then you are saying that humans have the capacity to fly, provided they have divine intervention, provided that God pulls the strings of physics or whatever. You, sitting at home, have the capacity to fly. And if you're going to make a claim like that, you're going to have to come with a lot more information than just a few testimonies of a couple of people centuries ago saying that they saw somebody flying around. Okay, that's it. I've talked long enough. I'm going to be doing reading vlogs. I'm going to be doing a lot of fun things coming up that I can't wait to do. But today, I just wanted to sit down and run through a couple of things that were on my mind. I'm going to be sending these books out, and I will be sending these out as a pair. If you want them, you know what you have to do. Thank you, BookTube.